Welcome to Max Sales, the show where we talk proven techniques to maximize your sales and maximize your life. Now, here's your host, Dave Benson.
Welcome to Max Sales Podcast. I'm Dave Benson. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm really excited about today's topic. I've got a special guest and I can't wait to introduce him. And I know that you're going to get so much out of this quick podcast for the next half an hour. Do you want to double your sales? Do you want to double your sales revenue? I know every single person would be saying yes to that question right now. If somebody said to me that they could help me double my sales revenue, not just take it by 5% or 10% on an increase, but double my sales revenue, I would be very interested. So on today's episode of the Max Sales Podcast, we're going to talk about how to position yourself as a trusted authority to double your sales revenue. And I have a very special guest on the program today. His name is Cam Roberts, and Cam Roberts is a business growth strategist and direct response internet marketer. He's also the #1 best-selling author of a brand new book called Crank It, which is new ways to grow your business and double your sales in the digital age. And I know that as a salesperson myself, we have to be looking at new techniques to embrace the digital age. And Cameron's going to share on that. Welcome to the program, Cam.
Hey, Dave. Thanks very much for having me on.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure. We've known one another for quite a few years, and it's great to have you on the podcast and share your expertise in this area. I know that from my sales background, the first time that I met you, I remember seeing on I think it was on your business card or on your promo flyers, that you were Australia's leading sales expert. I was a little bit threatened, I have to say.
Well, that's part of what we're going to talk about today, Dave. I claimed a line in the sand. I became my authority because I gave that title to myself. And that's what we're going to share with your listeners today.
Yeah, it's really, look, I'm a big believer if you don't promote yourself, no one else is going to promote you.
That's right.
I remember having on my first business card when I went into the sales training arena, I put sales expert. And a lot of people would say to me in a training session, Dave, you're a wanker. Come on, man. You got tickets on yourself or something. I think that might be an Australian thing,
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it's an Australian thing, yeah.
Yeah. And, tear down the tall poppies sort of, we always want to bring people down, go for the underdog. So when somebody calls themselves a sales expert, we're a bit threatened by that. But the reality is, I used to say to these people in the room, I'm like, you wouldn't want to take advice from somebody that just said mediocre in sales on their business, would you?
That's right, yeah.
You want the sales expert in the room. And so, I'm glad that we've got Australia's #1 sales expert on the program in yourself, Cam, and somebody who might think that I am, but we'll talk about that, hey?
Well, I think you've passed me there now, Dave, haven't you?
Well, I think that's why, two heads are better than one. That's why we're on this podcast together. So, look, let's make a start. Let's talk about, I want to talk about your book and really unpack some of the things that are in your brand new book, Crank It. But I really want to talk about how the average salesperson, that whether they're working in a real estate office, whether they're working in their own small business, whether they're working in a car dealership or any sort of sales role in any country around the world, what are some of the strategies that they can really implement in order to take themselves and promote themselves rather than just promoting their business?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Dave. Now, the first thing we need to establish is what we were just talking about, actually. It's a really good point, and that is giving yourself a title, claiming a title, drawing a line in the sand of who you're going to become. Yeah. So a lot of people, in selling or in business, they're not the leaders at what they do because they don't claim to be the leaders. So I'll share a story that's going to highlight this. About 18 months ago, I was working with a dentist in North Sydney, and he was doing all right, but he wasn't doing great. And he wanted my help to, improve his business, double his sales, and, really get more leads into his business. And as we started to unpack what it was that he was doing, he was making the mistake of what a lot of dentists do. And, they make the mistake of being the drillers and fillers, they call them, and doing all the checkups. And so the problem with doing the checkups is that you've got to have a lot of checkups being done to make, $20,000, for instance.
Yep.
But I unpacked with that dentist. I said, look, where's the biggest value? And, we call it a slack adjuster. And I'm sure you've heard the term slack adjuster in selling.
Yes.
That's having one big ticket item that makes up for all the smaller sales, right?
Sure.
So we created a slack adjuster for him, and it was called a smile makeover. Now, it's just veneers and getting new teeth at the front and porcelains and all of that.
Yes.
But we gave it a name, you see. We called it the smile makeover, right? And so now he was the only one in Sydney doing smile makeovers, okay? And then I gave him a title, which at first he felt uncomfortable with, but then grew into, and it really did change the way that he did business and the amount of smile makeovers that he sold.
Yes.
And that title that, we gave him, or I came up for him, was North Sydney's #1 smile makeover expert.
It's fantastic.
Right? So again, we're talking about, you being the sales expert, you see. Once he claims that title as North Sydney's #1 smile makeover expert, no one else in North Sydney can have that title because it's all over his website. It's in the marketplace.
Yeah.
People are now knowing that he's the guy to go to for a smile makeover, you see. So when you ask me, like, what are some of the things that, real estate agents, car salespeople, people selling furniture and computers and, whatever they're selling, small business owners selling stuff, they've got to be able to claim a title, if you like. And it doesn't even matter that they're not that yet. It's about who they want to become, right? And then stepping into that. So, again, another story to highlight this, for those who know my story, and I won't go into it today, but, I also come from a business background. At one stage, I had 3 separate business models with 1,500 clients each and every week and 35 staff. Now, one of those businesses was a swim school, and we worked really hard in the first 2 years to win lots of community votes for community awards.
Yeah.
Now, that wasn't a fluke. That didn't happen by accident.
Sure.
I intentionally rigged all of that,
of course.
right? Because I wanted to win the awards for one reason. And do you know what that reason was, Dave?
Well, you wanted that as your title.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we became, it was Aquastar Swim School, Lake Macquarie's most award-winning swim school.
Absolutely.
Right? It's gold.
Absolutely.
No one else in our region could claim that title of Lake Macquarie's most award-winning swim school.
Yeah.
So if you've got a problem that needs solving, whether it's teeth or your child needs to swim or you need to sell someone a $60,000, $120,000 or $200,000 motor vehicle or a $600,000 property or $1 million property or $2 million property, like who are you going to trust more, the generalist or the expert? And so the first thing I would encourage people to do is to give themselves, and seriously think about it, give themselves a title that they can step into, okay, and be that person. Now, in both of those examples, it wasn't a case of we just came up with a title that was unrealistic. It wasn't like the world's smile makeover expert, right? But it packaged up a market so no one could penetrate, right? Saying Lake Macquarie's most award-winning swim school. There was an argument at one time that we were winning so many awards, I could have turned that into New South Wales or even Australia's most award-winning swim school.
Yes.
But I kept it to Lake Macquarie because that's what we started with, see?
Well,
so
it's an interesting one there too, because your market for that swim school is not Australia. It's Lake Macquarie. So,
that's right. Exactly.
People want to know it's like Macquarie's best. It's the #1 award. Yeah. They don't need to know it's Australia's best.
No.
In many ways, that could be threatening because, it's too big of an organisation and they're only worried about the bigger picture.
Care anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it's not that individual, flavour, I guess. So I think you picked that mark really well. So you're saying the first thing that they need to do is really jump into picking a title that they can step into. Explain step into a title.
Okay, well, let me explain the authority pyramid, and that will kind of, unpack, what stepping into a title means. there's a pyramid that I use and I teach, and it's called the authority pyramid. Now, I didn't make it up, and, quite frankly, I don't like to make a lot of things up. It's fraught with danger, okay? So you take what's already working and you make it better. There's no use in reinventing the wheel, Dave, right? You find a wheel that's working and you make that better, okay? So I didn't invent the authority pyramid, but I teach it in a way that people can understand. Now, the bottom of the authority pyramid, if you imagine a pyramid and it's in sections, like those food pyramids we see.
Yes.
The bottom section is what we call the novice, okay? So if we're talking about sales, the bottom is the novice salesperson. So maybe they've been in the game only 6 months. They haven't had their training.
Yes.
They're making all the typical salesperson mistakes, newbie, rookie mistakes, right? They're the novice, okay? Now, the step up from the novice, though, is the generalist.
Yes.
So the salesperson, they start to get better. They start to attend training. They reach out to you, Dave, and they come to some of your workshops and seminars and training, and, now they get better, right? Then they're a generalist. But the problem is they're still a generalist. And let me ask you, if you've got a problem with your heart, Dave, or you've got a problem or you broke your leg or something like that, or you're a sports person and you're looking to go the extra mile in performance, are you going to see a GP, a general practitioner doctor, or do you want to go and see a sports doctor, or if there's something wrong with my heart or something, do I want to see a heart surgeon?
Yeah.
You see?
Yep.
So the answer is obvious. The GP's there to see general, issues and sickness and health, right? But when we have a real issue, something around our heart, we want to go see the heart surgeon.
Yes.
Because they're the authority. And here's the thing about authority pyramid, the authority pyramid. Whatever that heart surgeon says when I'm in his or her room, I'm going to take as gold. I'm not going to argue with it. I'm not going to, wondering if, he's right or wrong. I'm not going to Google go home and Google it.
Yes.
This guy or girl is the expert. I'm going to listen to what they say, and I'm going to do exactly what they say, or I'm, not going to be alive in 5 or 10 years, whatever it is, right?
Yes.
So the authority pyramid is the novice, the generalist, and then once you go from the generalist, you move up to the specialist.
Right.
And that's where you start becoming really special at one thing. So let me unpack those things. So a novice salesperson, like I said, the newbie. The generalist is still selling a wide variety of products in a product line, right? But a specialist sells a certain type of product in a product line.
Yes.
So if I was a real estate agent, I would position myself as a specialist and be, Sydney's or New York's or Melbourne or, wherever it is, California's waterfront expert.
Right.
You see, waterfront real estate expert or waterfront property expert, okay? Or it might be, countryside, whatever it is.
Yes.
If I was selling cars, I'd want to be the guy that sells luxury and prestige vehicles in a range of cars at the dealership. I'd want to be the expert at selling the luxury and prestige cars in that dealership. Yes. If it was in furniture, I'd want to be the guy that specialises in the high-end TV and know all about the HD and the new TVs coming out more than anyone else on the showroom floor. You see, I'm a specialist because specialists will sell more.
Yeah, that's right. It's not saying that you can't sell the other stuff.
No, not at all.
Yeah, yeah.
And it comes back to, we've all heard it. If not, maybe the listeners can go and check it up. But check out the Pareto's principle, right?
Yes.
It's the 80-20 rule.
80-20 principle.
So, right. And so, it doesn't mean that you can't sell all of the other cars or you can't sell any other type of property.
Yes.
But once you become an expert at selling waterfront properties, you'll start selling 70%, 80% of your property sales will come from waterfront properties. You're right? So, and we did this for our swim school. When we opened the swim school, our target market, we were very clear about who that was. They were aged between 6 months and 3 years.
Yeah.
But we taught kids up to 12 or 13 years of age. But what was interesting, in the summer when we did 1,200 lessons a week, about 800 of those children were in that age group that we're targeting.
Right.
Okay, so the majority. Now, you're right. It's not that, you don't teach or sell other products and services.
Yeah.
But once you start focusing and you step into that role or step into who you're becoming, you will sell 70 to 80% of your products and services as a specialist.
And look, I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to really finding that niche and finding your target market. You've got to look at the target market and say, what are the biggest opportunities for me to not only make money here, but what's going to be the biggest return on my time invested? Like if I'm going to spend a lot of time, let me use a car dealership example, obviously being my background, I could spend all my time becoming the, Toyota Yaris expert. Now, at a $15,000, $20,000 price bracket, a salesperson's not going to get a lot of return on selling 30 of those a month. But if he goes out and sells 30 200 series Land Cruisers, there's a whole different return. Now, if you label yourself as the SUV or your four-wheel drive expert at the Toyota dealership, for example, that you're working at, then not only will you focus on what is going to give you the greatest return, but also you've got to look at what's coming in the door. If the inquiry is coming in the door for the 200 series, that's what you've got to be the expert on. There's no point in being the expert on the 200 series if you get one inquiry on those every 12 months. So
that's right.
Understanding who your target market is and then saying what's going to give me the greatest return on my time and also what's going to give me the greatest revenue return for this label, for this title.
Yeah. And what's interesting, Dave, is that people know people just like them.
Yes.
So if you start to sell more of the $60,000, $70,000, $120,000 SUVs, guess what? Well, that family you just sold that SUV to also know people just like them.
Yeah.
But guess what salespeople do? They make a sale, and then what do? They move on to the next sale.
Yeah.
Right? They forget about the sale they just sold.
Yes.
And so how do I know this? Because I've bought numerous cars over the years.
Yes.
And 6 months ago, I bought a turbo diesel Jeep, right? And I don't care whether people love Jeeps or hate them, but we've had no problems with Jeep. It's a beautiful motor vehicle, leather seats. It's a Black Hawk version. It's just a fantastic motor vehicle. We love it, right? But do you think the salesperson that sold me that Jeep, do you think 1 week later he called me up and said, "Hey, Mr. Roberts, it's salesperson Joe here. Just want to check in. How's that new Black Hawk going?"
That's right.
Did you do that, Dave?
I heard you're loving it. And by the way, do you know of any family or friends that might be in the market? None of that.
I mean, come on. How easy is that, right? And here's the thing, Dave. It's not about he asked at the first point, right? So he's got to check in on me first, make sure I'm happy. And I'm going to go, I love it. The Black Hawk's beautiful. We're driving around in it. Okay, great. Well, just let me know if there's any issues. Call me back. Here's my number, right?
Yes.
Hang up. Wait a month. Call me back again. Hey, Mr. Roberts, how you going? Listen, you've been driving around for 4 weeks. Just want to check in. How's that new Black Hawk going? It's great. Thanks, Joe, salesperson. It's fantastic. Well, that's great. Listen, Cameron, while I've got you on the phone, just want to give you a friendly reminder. It's due for a service.
That's right.
And, we'd love to service you. And when you come in and bring your car in for a service, we're going to give you a brand new vehicle to drive for the day.
Correct.
Right? You can drive around a brand new vehicle, Mr. Roberts, and I can even book that in now. Do you want me to book that in for you, Mr. Roberts?
Yep.
Right? And then he waits, we have that service. After the service, ring me back a week later. Hey, Mr. Roberts, how's the service? Yep. Oh, great. Okay, fantastic. Well, listen, I just want to ask you a quick favour, Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to go, hey, you sure, Joe? What's that? We've already got a relationship now, see? Right? I'm going, sure, what's that? Well, listen, Cameron, things are a little bit slow down the dealership here, and we've got a few cars we need to move. I'm wondering if you know anyone just like you that would love a great deal on a brand new motor vehicle just like yours.
That's right.
What am I going to say?
Yeah. Well, the percentage that's been shared with me, and it's, how do you trust percentages? Well, you test them out. That's the way I look at it. Is that more than 70% of people have a family member that's looking to purchase a car in the next 3 months. Yeah. In the next 3 months, a family member, not just a friend, a direct family member, right?
But here's the thing, Dave. Like you said, you introduced me. I'm telling stories all over the internet, right? I've got 30,000 followers on social media.
Yep.
Like, people don't even do their homework on me.
Yep.
Like, if I was a salesperson and I see this guy speaking in front of people every week, he's got 5,000 followers here, 7,000 there, 10,000 there, I'd be ringing him up all the time.
Absolutely.
Saying, Cameron, can you talk about your car on the internet?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, you're spot on. And look, I love the fact that what you're doing is you're saying, well, how long did those phone calls take, to make one every month, or, I mean, you rattled them off in
minutes, Dave.
Absolutely.
Minutes for $60,000, $70,000, $120,000 vehicle.
Yeah. But people say, well, it's not necessarily going to give me a great return. Well, but that's so short-minded and small-minded thinking that we're just looking for the next person to walk in the door, in whatever market it is, whether it's real estate, whether it's cars, whether it's our own small business. We're not leveraging relationship. And I like what you said, it's the first 2 or 3 phone calls is about building your credibility, building that relationship, because once you have that, it's an easy ask. But if it's just a transaction, if you're just asking for referrals, banging out, want a referral, it becomes very transactional. But what you're talking about is relationship stuff.
Absolutely. And, that's a good point about that transactional selling, because, I mean, that happened to us when we bought the Black Hawk. As soon as we bought it, they sat us down to do a survey on how they performed. So we'd go back to head office. And I'm like looking at the survey, I'm thinking, how can I fill this out? I don't know if you've done your job yet. And I'm thinking to myself, as soon as I drive this bloody car out the door, you're not going to have anything to do with
That's
me,
right? Yeah.
And what happened, of course? Well, I fill out the survey. Do they call me up? No.
Yeah. But it's an interesting thing about those surveys is, I know one dealership that I've worked with over the last few years, and uncovered a great statistic about them is that they have like their CSI survey, and they are ranked number 1 in New South Wales for that brand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why didn't you tell me this 6 months ago?
Yeah.
Because how have you not been using this as part of your marketing?
That's right, it's a positioning tool.
Absolutely. I mean, I want that to be on every piece of marketing that you send out, on every email footer as your signature, that you are New South Wales number 1 trusted franchise in this business. Yeah. You want to know that.
I mean, Dave, how hard is it to send an SMS to someone? They're coming for a test drive, and you send them an SMS confirmation, or even after they do the test drive, to say thank you. And then at the bottom is the tagline.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'll tell you another funny car story, and it's from a different dealership.
Yep.
We went to a dealership, we had arranged a test drive, and this probably happens all the time, I don't know, or maybe it just happened to me. We arranged a specific time to go and test drive this car because we have children, so we got a babysitter for the children so my wife and I could test drive a car at the dealership we didn't buy this car from, right? So it's a different one now.
Yes.
And as we get there, we booked it in for 12:30 on a Saturday.
Yep.
We got there at 12:25, and then we had to wait for 25 minutes before we drove the vehicle.
Yes.
Because they didn't have the vehicle out at front. It was still out the back, and they had to get all the other cars out. Yeah. It's like crazy. Like, I'm going, these guys want to sell a car or not? Like, they make it hard for themselves, right?
Yeah.
But here's the funny thing. We drive around in that car for 35 minutes, right? We're in the car for 35 minutes. This isn't a lap around the block.
Yeah, good test.
Surely that tells the salespeople we're very interested in buying a car.
Yes.
We drive back to the dealership, and I kid you not, we get out of the car. He says to me, have you got any questions? I said, yes, I do. What's this thing on the dash do? There was something on the dash that went up and down, and I couldn't get it up, and I was wondering what was under the dash.
Yep.
And he goes, oh, look, I don't know what that is. We'll have to work that out later. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, all right, we'll get out of the way later.
Yes.
And then he says to me something which I'll never forget. He said, okay, well, I'll let you go now and give me a call when you're ready to buy. And I'm like, he didn't even try and close me. Yeah. I just drove around in his car for 35 minutes, and he just let me go. And I was thinking, maybe it's in sales we call it a takeaway sale, right? Sure. So we're taking it away from him. I thought he was doing a takeaway sale on me. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, so he's going to kind of let me go and not be pushy. But what he's going to do is going to call me back later for a really sweet deal.
Yes.
So I thought he was going to call me about an hour later for a good deal and get me to come and buy the car that afternoon.
I hope you weren't watching the phone.
No, I thought it was the next day. Did he call me the next day? No. I thought it was maybe a 2 or 3 day strategy. I'm still waiting for the call, Dave.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Don't watch the phone. Don't watch the phone. Just move on with your life. It's but the interesting thing is you mentioned the takeaway close. A very good sales technique on the takeaway close. But the takeaway close only works when you've got something unique.
Yes.
If you're selling a brand new car, I'm assuming this was a brand new car.
Yeah.
If you're selling a brand new car and there's a dealership 20 minutes down the road, or alternatively, if you're selling a product that might be a T-shirt or a line of clothing or something, a shoe shop, for example. But you know that in that shopping center, there's those Nike Air Max are in 3 different stores. You can't do the takeaway clothes. You can't say, thanks very much. I'm glad you tried those on. I look forward to seeing you maybe on the weekend when you got a bit more time. I mean, that's insane. Well, Blind Freddie could see we've got to close this deal. We've got to close this deal.
To be fair, Dave, it doesn't just happen to car dealerships, right? It happens in real estate because about 2 years ago, my wife and I were looking for an investment property down on the coast, Central Coast. And for those who know me, I live in a beautiful Newcastle, Lake Macquarie region of Australia in New South Wales. And the Central Coast area I'm talking about, it's about an hour's south, a bit closer to Sydney. We live about 2 hours north of Sydney. And so the Central Coast is kind of between Sydney and Newcastle. And so we're looking for investment properties, and it was over a couple of weekends. We must have visited about 20 different properties. Yep. Now, when you visit a property, Dave, what they do is, in Australia anyway, they get you to write your name in a little book as you go through, so they've got your contact details, right? Now, out of those 20 real estate agents that we came across and gave our details to over, a couple of weekends, how many of them do you think followed us up with a phone call saying, hey, Mr. Roberts, how are you going for your house hunting? I've got another deal for you, or what did you think about it? What do you reckon?
No, I recommended one.
There was one, right?
Yep.
And that one couldn't even pick up the phone. Yep. They had to send us an SMS.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And they continued to send us a couple of SMSs. It was about 5 in total over the next month, and then we never heard from them again.
It's an interesting thought, and it's something I'd love to chat to you maybe on another episode. Is the follow-up techniques on SMS versus phone versus email, because obviously you're a digital marketer. So I really find that interesting. I want to go back for a moment and just really talk about the fact that we've now labelled ourselves as the expert in our field or in our niche, and really tailored it down to a specific area. I really like the example of the waterfront, real estate specialist, for example. What do we do with that? Okay, we've got it out on our business card, we've got it on our email signature maybe, but what do we do next in order to, actually double our sales revenue rather than just calling ourselves an expert?
Yeah. Well, there's some tools that we can use to what we call seed the prospect or pre-frame the sale, if you like. And the way I explain it to people, it's like watching a movie, right? Someone's going to buy a product or a service from you. Your job is to play a movie in their head before they get to the salesperson, right? If you can't play a movie in their head before they see the sales presentation, right, you're really throwing mud up against the wall and hoping some sticks, all right? So the way we rig all of this, Dave, is that we pre-frame the whole thing. And so what I want to do, I'm going to read out of my book, Crank It, The New Ways to Grow Your Business, and there's a section in here, I think it's section 9, and it talks about the top 7 sales tools for building influence and becoming an authority in your marketplace.
Great.
So I'm just going to quickly read over some of those tools, and maybe your listeners can use them and implement them in their sales processes.
That's fantastic.
And again, all of these tools do one thing. They play a movie in the prospect's head before they visit the home, before they test drive the car, okay? And they help the sale.
That's great.
So the first one is what we call the information kit. So the information kit, it helps people solve part of their problems for them. So for instance, if there was 10 problems around buying a new car, maybe it was cost, leather seats, after sales service, whatever the problems were, in the information kit that they get before they come and do the test drive, it addresses those objections or those problems for them. So when they come, they're already armed with information, if you like, right? So we don't let them go to Google and find the answers.
Yes.
We tell them what the answers are.
Yep.
Now, also in the information kit, we want to have great social proof. So we want testimonies from our other happy clients. like you said there before about reviews, if you do surveys, those CIA surveys, right?
Yep.
If you're the best in the business at what you do, put that in your information kit, right?
Absolutely.
If you've got those reviews, put them in the information kit. You'll also address objections, okay, in the information kit. FAQs, okay? So you want to cover those things off so that when they get to the presentation, they're better educated. And
Yes.
that way you don't have to educate them so much
Great.
in the presentation, okay? Now, let me just start off by saying the information kit's not designed for cold prospects. So it's not something you put on your website and just give to anybody, right? It's really only for people that you've had a conversation with or that they've booked in. Say for myself, when I booked in for that test drive, I had to call a salesperson.
Yes.
He asked me some questions. At that time, it would have been a great opportunity for him to say, okay, Mr. Roberts, here's what I'm going to do next. I've booked you in at 12:30 and I'm going to send you some information, okay? And where will I send that to? Which email address, is the best to send that to, right?
Yes. It's great.
So the next thing that helps with the sales is the book.
Yep.
So, this would work fantastic in the real estate game. If I was selling real estate and waterfront properties or rural properties, I should be an author of, that particular market and help people understand what makes a good, waterfront property.
Yes.
How do you, add value to a home? How do you increase your equity in a home? So what are some of the problems faced around, buying and selling homes?
Yep.
I want to kind of unpack that for people, all around homes and waterfronts and be that expert. So a book is a great sales tool.
That's
And,
great.
you can have a book that's just like 20 or 50 pages.
Yes.
But again, what's going to happen is someone's going to read that book, even if they just flick through it.
Yes.
It puts you as a salesperson or the business owner in a better light before they come and see you or before you do the presentation with them. Okay?
Absolutely. I like what you said. It doesn't have to be War and Peace. It doesn't have to be a long book, and it doesn't necessarily have to be any more than an ebook. Something that you don't have to get it printed. You necessarily, in the days of digital age, you can put it on Fiverr.com and get somebody to put it all nicely together and put a nice cover photo together, and it'd probably cost you $10, and you've got it done in 24 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
good.
So the next sales tool, Dave, is speaking on your feet.
Yes.
Okay. Now this can be done live or it can be done, via video. So for instance, if we use the car dealership guys, they could be doing a speaking on your feet presentation of the car.
Yes.
Put it on YouTube. That way, when they've got a prospect that's called them up. Okay, Mr. Roberts, look, I'm just going to send you a quick video link to watch.
Yes.
It shows you, I'm just doing a walkthrough of the car, and I want you to have a look at it before you come for the test drive.
It's so
right?
important, especially for interstate customers. A lot of inquiries now come from interstate or even from overseas now. It doesn't matter what business you're running. Sometimes you won't get a face-to-face, and you can do a whole presentation on video. And again, it doesn't have to be a Hollywood production. It just needs to be real, can be done on your iPhone, and just showing them through the key parts, and it builds credibility, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And some people get lazy and they say, oh, but I've already got the video of the home. Someone came and done a video of the home, or there's already videos of the car.
Yeah.
But that's not it.
No.
People don't buy from cars.
Yes.
People don't buy from homes.
Yes.
People buy from people.
Yes.
Right? So the point of the video is to create trust with someone else.
It's great.
It's not really about the car. It's really about you as a salesperson coming across in a genuine or authentic way, positioning yourself as an authority, because they're now watching you on their phone, right? And guess who else they watch on their phone? They watch movie stars. They watch TV presenters.
Yep.
So you're now being put in the same place as they're watching all of these other experts, right? So it puts you in a position that is favourable for the sale. So number 4, Dave, would be webinars. Now, if people listening don't know what a webinar is kind of live training on the internet, right? So you can do it live, you can do it recorded, but it's where you would put a group of people together. So, for instance, to give you a demonstration of this, one of my clients at the moment, he's been doing what we call one-to-one selling. So he's a property coach,
yes.
and he's been doing all of his consults one-on-one. Now, he's got a product that's worth $25,000, right? And that's what he sells, $25,000 property education, shows people how to make money out of real estate investing and small property projects. But he's been doing a lot of one-on-one selling. And what we're doing is we're positioning him moving him from one-on-one selling to what we call one-to-many selling.
Yes.
And putting him in front of, 10 or 20 people at a time,
yes.
right? So there's no reason why you couldn't do this, for products or
yes.
houses or, different products and services in business.
Mm-hmm.
Do some online training, do some webinars where you can kind of do a walkthrough of, what's working in your experience. And again, remember, like I said before with speaking on your feet, this is all about positioning you. It's not really about the features of the product or service,
yes.
you see. It's about positioning you as the expert. Now, number 5, Dave, is similar to what we're doing now, and that would be podcasting.
Yes.
So if I was, a salesperson that was selling luxury vehicles, or I was a salesperson that was selling waterfront properties, I'd want to have some podcasts available on my own website, different from the dealership maybe,
yes.
so that when people, Googled my name, I came up, and they can go, even if it was only, I only had 12 podcasts there,
yes.
they could go and listen to me talk about, the rights and wrongs of buying a car,
yeah.
what to avoid, right?
Yes.
What to look for, how
yep.
to save money, whatever it is.
Yes.
It just, again, it positions you in that marketplace.
Great. Yeah, it just becomes an expert. I mean, when and I'm sure everybody's done it, they've Googled themselves. I know everybody does. And if you Google yourself, firstly, do you come up? Do you even rate? Do you rank anywhere on Google? Even if they were to put in Dave Benson, car salesman, or Ford dealership Singleton, whatever it might be, would you still come up? And if you don't come up, well, there's an opportunity that somebody may well have Googled that and not found anything. But if they find something and it's creditable, then it gives you authority, which is what you're saying. Yeah, it's good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
And the next one, Dave, is live videos are becoming very, very popular.
Right.
You've got Facebook Live, you've got Instagram Live.
Yes.
There's been a few others come and go, but they're the two strong players. And, again, live videos, you just should, and again, like you said before, it doesn't have to be orchestrated like a Hollywood movie.
No.
People aren't actually looking for that. They just want to see a real person on the other end.
Yeah.
Okay? So it would be a matter of, you getting on a camera, if you're reviewing a home or you're going through a home before the open home's there, just do a walkthrough with the camera.
Yep.
Oh, look, here we are at this beautiful waterfront property. We've got an open home here today. I'm very excited about all the people that are going to go through. And, if you want to come down and check it out, here's the address. Very simple to do that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Same with cars. If they've got a special car that's just been bought in,
yep.
Just a quick walkthrough, post it up to Facebook Live. It goes up straight away. People can like it, comment on it. You can save the video for later.
Yep.
Again, this positions people as the experts and the authority in their marketplace.
Yeah, that's right. I saw one the other day, a live video from a salesperson, a car salesperson in a semi-prestige Volvo brand somewhere in Australia. I think it was in Melbourne. And they had, what they'd just done is filmed the cars coming off the trucks, the brand new, whatever model it was, coming off the trucks and how they were actually covered and wrapped and, in order to protect the paint and stuff like that. That's the sort of stuff that the average consumer doesn't see. But what does that say to an end consumer, that what Volvo does in order to protect their products and make sure that they've got a premium product? That shows some real credibility, and I was really excited when I saw that email, that video. I thought that's a really great idea.
Yeah, and it tells a story, doesn't it? So it's not selling the Volvo; it's telling a story about Volvo.
Yeah,
right, and it's the emotional hook of the story. So with all of these, what we call conversion tools, Dave, is we want to tell a story. We want to build some emotions, build some trust, some credibility, right? And that's the whole angle of all of this.
All right, give us number 7, Cam.
Okay, so the 7th and final one is blogging. Now, whether you like blogging or you hate blogging, you can't argue that it's going to position you well on the internet, right? Because that's where people are these days. So regardless of what you're selling, your prospect right now is Googling something, right? Whether it's the next car, the next house, they're Googling something. Yeah. And what you've got to do is you've got to provide them with some sort of content to trip over.
Yes.
Now, there's a couple of places where you can put your information. Now, blogging, you don't have to kind of have your own website, But again, if I was an authority in selling a particular type of car or an authority in selling a particular type of home, type property, right, and I didn't want to kind of have my own website, I would be blogging on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So again, when someone typed my name in, LinkedIn shows up on the first page.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, so I was just saying when you use LinkedIn,
yes.
Dave, you there?
Yeah, got you.
Yeah, so using LinkedIn, it builds credibility because A, you get to play a movie in their mind,
yes.
and B, when they Google you, that comes up on LinkedIn.
Well,
so if I was to Google Dave Benson,
the built-in SEO on LinkedIn is quite amazing. You can go and build a website from the ground up, but the built-in SEO ability to, the share, the likes, all that sort of stuff helps the SEO rating of that LinkedIn post.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
So there's some real good arguments about why you should be doing, LinkedIn posting there.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Look, those 7 things. I'm going to have a guess that the listener to our podcast today, those 7 things would be mind-boggling to a salesperson. They wouldn't be mind-boggling to somebody who is necessarily starting a small business or has a background in marketing, but you're now telling a salesperson they have to be more than just a salesperson on a transaction. They have to self-market. They have to self-promote. And what we're talking about is positioning yourself as a trusted authority. This is more than just waiting for the phone to ring. This is more than just being a salesperson. You're being a marketer now. Is that right?
Yeah. And, Dave, sales and marketing is more closely related than it's ever been before.
Yeah,
the terminology I use is marketing gets people to your door, but sales gets them through the door.
Right.
Now, you need to be great at both in the digital age. You can't just be a salesperson in the digital age and just wait for someone to walk in so you can close them.
You're right.
It's not going to happen because that prospect that walks in, they're more educated than ever before.
Spot on.
And in some cases, they're in your dealership, walking through your open homes and in your shops, looking at your competitors on their phone.
Of course they are. Of course they are. I would too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really important to, like you said, not just be a salesperson, but, you've got to be able to market yourself and position yourself in such a way that the selling becomes easy. It's an easier sale if you pre-frame the prospect and you play a better movie to them before they get to sit in your seat and hear your presentation.
And I love what you're talking about as well is filling your pipeline as well. You're filling your funnel with quality clients. Whether they buy today, we were talking about the whole asking for referrals, whether you get business from that today, whether you get business from it tomorrow or in 3 months, 6 months time, I think often as salespeople, we're so short-sighted to only look at what's on the plate right now and how can I make the next sale today, rather than thinking about how do I cultivate a long-term funnel strategy so that I am building a core key network that brings me an income long term, regardless even of the market conditions. Regardless, I go to WA all the time and how's things over there? Oh, well, it's slow because the mining boom's over. Well, then I go down to the business down the road and they're not struggling, and I go, what are they doing different? And it's just that they have done some of the techniques that we've been talking about today. They've positioned themselves in order to not just wait, but to be proactive in that area. That's fantastic. So from the 7 points and everything that we've covered today, if you could summarize in one key takeaway, Cam, what would be the one thing that you would suggest that the salesperson listening to this right now should implement today?
So the first thing they should do is probably that first point we made, Dave, and that is give themselves a title and then walk into it, right? And then use that in their pre-framing and their marketing. That would be the most simplest thing to do.
Right.
Make a decision as to what market do you want to dominate, what market do you want to become an authority in, and get really good at being in that market, right? You can't just not know your product and say, I'm going to be an authority in selling the seat, anything about that line, right?
Yes.
So understand your product, be an expert at it, and then step into it, whatever that is. And use that as the sounding board for what's next, or the board for what's next.
Yeah, that's great. It's fantastic. Look, I know there's been so much gold out of the podcast today. I really appreciate, Cam, you coming onto the show. I've got to ask you one last question that I ask every single guest on this podcast. And, you know, this podcast is about maximum sales, but also maximum life. You know, I believe you can't have one without the other. You know, if you go hard after maximum sales, but you don't have the life, you don't have the family life, you don't have the quality of life and all that sort of stuff behind it, it's a waste of time. So what would be the one key thing that you would say it gives you the maximum life? The one key thing, it might be a principle or foundation that you have, what gives you maximum life?
Well, when we talk about business, Dave, one thing that I've found for me personally that's always worked really well is the ability to block out time. So a lot of people will fill up their calendar with things to do. And, you know, I've got a busy calendar like everyone else, but I actually block time out. So when I had my 3 separate businesses with, 1,500 clients and 30-odd staff, I actually used to block out Wednesdays. I just wouldn't go to work on Wednesdays. Right. So I worked hard Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. And that was my time with my family, to do what I needed to do and just kick back and relax. Then work hard Thursday, Friday, Saturday again, And I do that now in, the space that I play in now. There are certain times during the week that I just block out, and that's my time with my family to kind of relax and recharge, and that way I can be great at what I do, service my clients well, help people all around the world, and, and have that ability to not burn out, And I'm 45, and people say to me, "You don't look 45."
You don't.
And I thought, one of the reasons for that is my ability to maintain that balance, to be able to work hard and pull back, right? And second to that, a great believer in looking after myself, health-wise and fitness-wise, because if I want to be the best at what I do in Australia and throughout the world, I'm going to need a certain type of energy to do that, you see. So if I'm going to be an expert, if I'm going to be an authority, be the best in the world at something, I need to bring that with a lot of energy. Now, I can't bring that with a lot of energy if my health and my fitness suffers, and, I can't drag myself out of bed in the morning, and I can't wait to sit in a chair all day. It's not going to happen, right? So that would be my 2 biggest takeaways. Number 1, make sure you block out time.
Yes.
And number 2, take care of your physical body, and, your physical, your emotional, and also your spiritual body. Take care of yourself, because that's what's going to help you make more sales.
Yeah, fantastic. Really, really privileged and honoured to have you on the show, Cam. And thanks so much for sharing. And look, you've got one more gift for us, which is fantastic. Cam's latest book, which is Crank It, is going to give every single listener a free copy if you just visit crankit-thebook.com. I'll give you that website again, crankit-thebook.com, and he's going to give you a free copy just by listening to this podcast. I know that there's some of the gold that you shared from it, those 7 points in that book, and I really appreciate it, Cam, that you're going to give those out and resource the people on the Max Sales podcast. So we'll have you on again, I have no doubt.
Hey, that's really cool. And it's a real book too, by the way, Dave. It's not a download. So we actually post it to people just so there's no confusion there.
Fantastic. A tangible book. Good on you, Cam. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week on the Max Sales podcast.